Project 1065, Chapter 100, Untouched by War. The train compartment rocked like the cable car swinging in the sky, but this one was mercifully connected to the ground. I slumped heavily against the window, still stunned that I had been able to save Professor Goldsmith, who sat on the seat across from me, still stunned that I had fought Fritz on the top of a cable car, that I had watched him there, clinging to the roof of a gondola one moment, gone the next. Goldsmith and I caught a train from Uren to Bern, the capital of Switzerland, where there was an Irish embassy just like the one in Berlin. Only this one, presumably, still had an ambassador. Once I handed over Goldsmith, he wasn't my responsibility anymore. Our train rumbled along the sweeping curve of a stone bridge, a lazy crystal blue river below us. Enormous evergreen trees stood like sentinels along hillsides covered in a soft white blanket of snow. A little village with peaked roofs, a church steeple, and smoking chimneys glowed yellow-orange in the fading twilight. This was a Europe untouched by war. This was a Europe where no bombs had fallen, no Jews had been rounded up and sent to concentration camps, no tanks had torn the streets up with their treads, where homes and churches and schools still stood, where food was plentiful, where people still greeted one another warmly on the sidewalk without suspicion. This was Switzerland, protected from the horrors on their doorstep by the thin shield of neutrality, the paper wall of diplomacy and politics, just like Ireland. But the war that was being fought just outside the borders of Switzerland and just across the Celtic Sea from Ireland wasn't just a war between the Axis and the Allies. It was a world war, and the fate of every nation on earth, neutral or not, lay in the balance. When the war was over, the world would be ruled one way or the other, by freedom or fascism, by hope or fear. I had seen the depths, the lengths the Nazis would go to win that war, sacrificing their own children to the cause, and I also knew firsthand the sacrifices the Allies had made to stop them. I wonder, Michael, did you ever hear the one about the Englishman, the Irishman, and the Scotsman who were all lined up in front of the firing squad? Whether they wanted them to or not, Simon and the Allies were fighting to save the world for Switzerland too. And Ireland. What right did the Swiss, the Irish, the Spanish, anyone have to sit out of a fight for the fate of the world when they too would live or die by the result? A good man died to save you, I said to Goldsmith, startling him. They were the first words either of us had spoken since we boarded the train, weary from our adventure. My voice sounded harder than I'd meant to, like an accusation. I didn't ask him to, Goldsmith said defensively. Well, he did, whether you wanted him to or not. I'm sorry, Goldsmith said. Don't be sorry, I told him. Just make that bomb. Save the world. Do something that makes your life worth saving. Goldsmith took off his glasses, cleaned them with his handkerchief, and put them back on. I'll do my best, he said. I stared out the window again at the white mountains in the distance. I thought of Simon and of my parents. Where were they right now? In a barn in Germany? Hiding beneath a bridge in Nazi-occupied France? Or had they gone north to Denmark, looking for a ferry to take them across the North Sea to England? Surely they hadn't gone east toward the Russian front. Wherever they were, I prayed they were safe, and that I would see them again soon. Our train pulled into Bern less than an hour later. The station agent gave us directions, and the professor and I made our way to the Irish embassy. I spent more than a minute explaining to the lady at the front desk who Goldsmith and I were and why we were there before I realized I was still speaking German, and I had to start all over again in English. Yes, Michael, the woman said. You've been expected. I have? I asked. We have? By whom? But the lady was already on the phone, excitedly reporting our arrival. I heard a familiar voice give a happy cry somewhere down the hall. And then my mother and father and I were running to meet each other, wrapping one another in one great Irish hug.